different times in your life are going to call for different things. You asked me at the beginning of this podcast, like, what does it take to start? At one point in my life, it took 18-hour days every weekend eating crap.
Get ready. This is Inside the RV. Inside the RV. You're joined by your hosts, artist manager Jacob Moore and music artist Ryan Ramirez.
Hey, yo, episode 55 of Inside the RV. Thank you all for tuning in and listening. We have an amazing guest on today. This has been a long time in the making, someone I really look up to. I'm very stoked. We have the president and co-founder of Blue Light Media, and there is so much more to talk about this individual in front of me, but we're going to get right into it. Please welcome Mikhail Alfon.
What is up, guys?
What's up?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, thank you for being here, man. So you came from Orange County, right?
I came from Orange County. It shouldn't be that far away, but the 405 on Thursday at 4 o'clock is a small form of hell on earth, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. You texted me, you were like, it's going to be an hour. I went, oh yeah, that's right. It's like 4 o'clock. Yeah. My bad.
No, it's all good.
And so that's where Blue Light Media is based, right?
Yep. We're based in Costa Mesa, California, about a half a mile from my home. This is the farthest I've driven in a long time.
Well, that's convenient, right by your house.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Brief history of Blue Light Media and kind of your role.
Definitely. Blue Light Media is, we're a social digital first agency. We're definitely like maturing a little bit and doing a lot of content for incredible brands. But we started in 2014. And we've gone through some iterations. We started working with mom and pop businesses when I was just starting out. Like our first contracts were like $600 for, a photo shoot, social media management for a month. I would negotiate with Yelp. I'd build a website.
Way too much.
At the time I was like, dang, that's awesome. Because I needed that to pay rent. So I was super humble beginnings to do that. Now we employ 11 people, including myself. And, we have a great space. We work with nationally recognized brands now. And it's been a ride, dude. It's been a ride. I think everything that I wanted to accomplish with this agency when I started, surpassed that. Now I don't, now it's like, all right. Now what?
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting. So now what? How do you keep setting up expectations and goals that you want to meet when you've already achieved like more than you could have thought?
Yeah. It's such a blessing, dude. Like to think that, our first client is Wingnuts. You just went there.
I did just go there. It was bomb.
You didn't have the chicken sandwich, but it's fine. But I used to sit outside of Wingnuts, like on the patio. Was I smoking cigarettes at the time? Maybe I was smoking a vape at the time. And I would think, man, if I just got Wingnuts, like I will have made it. Yeah. Like I will officially have an agency. And now they're still a client of ours, which is rad. But we've accomplished so much. So, what now? Like, honestly, over the last 7 years that I've been doing this, and we're coming up on 8 now. I'm telling you, like I used to think that it was money. I used to think that it was fame. And if you like go far back enough on my Instagram or whatever it is, I talk about like making $1 million. And, I used to have Mark Cuban on my vision board because I wanted to be a billionaire, like all this stuff. And honestly, dude, like I don't really care about that stuff anymore, to be honest. And not to knock anybody that like wants that, because I think people should aspire to crazy things. However, for me personally, it's like I'm happiest when I'm with my wife. I have my 10, like we had like 14 or 15 people employed with us at one point, and like the difference between managing like 15 people and a couple of them were remote versus like 10 that are in the office are like very different. And one was like big headaches. And I couldn't imagine being like a Gary Vee with like 800 employees. And like obviously you're managing different things at that point, but I don't want that anymore.
That's awesome because I could definitely relate to like when I'm doing musically because, in the beginning I was like, I want to be the next Justin Bieber style, like famous, big star type thing. And then like the older I got, I realized it was less about that, even less about the money, but more about just like peace of mind and freedom and doing what I want to do. And so that's kind of why I took the entrepreneur path with the music I was doing. And obviously, money's a part of like being free, obviously, because you need financial freedom to do what you want. So that's kind of where my goals are with it. But that's interesting though, that we both kind of. The older you get, you realize it's not really about the notoriety and shit. It's more about just like doing what you want to do and succeeding at that,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Especially after I got married, bro. I'm telling you, like, I care so much less about anything.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like, my wife loves me, which is rad.
Yeah.
But to answer your question about what's next, like directly, honestly, it's about work-life balance for me and everybody.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds like really trite, but it's like we're focusing on getting fewer clients, paying us a little bit more, whatever it is, so that we can work within the same team and none of us are like stressed out. So it's about that. It's about how do I make sure I never have to text my team at like after 6 p.m., which I don't. I don't even do it after they leave, to be honest. How do I make sure that they never have to like, not never, because there's always a time, that they don't have to work on the weekends. You know what I'm saying? Like I had to do that at one point. I had to do all those things, but that's not their responsibility anymore. So I want to be able to create an environment for everybody where they can get paid well, but also enjoy their life. Because for me as the co-founder, like, dude, you can't buy time with your family. You can't buy a peace of mind. You know what I'm saying? And you can't buy a great work environment.
Yes.
How many people hate their jobs, dude? So that's the goal now. And I don't care what the money looks like for me or for the business. I don't care what the clients look like. I don't care, any of that stuff. It's just that.
Yeah. Wow. And so to everyone listening, this is coming from someone, as you mentioned earlier, very humble beginnings to scaling this business into, as you just recently mentioned, a 7-figure business, right?
Yeah.
So 7-figure business, managing 10 other people, that is just the coolest thing in the world to me. I'm fangirling right here. But I heard something in a podcast that you were in, and the reason I just mentioned that and what he has, that he's holding up is because with all of that, $1 million company, all of the employees and everything we're talking about, you have made it a priority that everyone who walks into your office, who works there, says hi to everybody else and smiles.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah, I don't know what's cooler. And I just want to put out a quick disclaimer there. Like, $1 million business sounds cool and everything, but like, that's not like what I'm taking home.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything goes back into the business. It goes into the employees. It goes into, all of that stuff. So, to be quite honest, we run pretty thin.
Yeah.
But because we invest so much in the employee, I wouldn't be able to be doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for them. So,
yeah.
And that's cool that you say that, man, because I feel like a lot of people will kind of put on that front of like, 7-figure company, like, and kind of put off this facade, like, I'm this rich, like, motherfucker, you know what I'm saying? But that's dope that you're giving, like, the reality of the situation and how it's always growing,
No, I don't, like, I don't even pay myself 6 figures, dude. I don't pay myself $100,000. That's wild. Why do I don't need that. You know what I mean? To do the things that I want to do. I'm not saying that you shouldn't aspire for that. For what I need for my life to be happy, I don't need that. I would rather, somebody coming up makes, $25 an hour instead of $18 an hour type of thing. So, and I drive a Kia because, again, not important to me. And I have like such little attachment to things at this point in my life. Anyways, saying hi to everybody, we've gone through teammates and stuff. And the most important thing for me is just creating an environment where people feel safe, where they feel happy, where they can grow. And if you can walk into an office of 10 people and not smile and say hi to somebody, like, you're probably not a good fit because, like, dude, it's just being polite. Like, I would acknowledge somebody that I didn't even know if it was that small. So anyways, that is definitely something. It's unfortunate that I had to make that a policy at one point.
Now, is that something that you already had just as a part of your personality when you were building the company, or was there a particular moment where maybe someone crossed you or something and you went, oh my God, or you went in an environment you didn't like and you said, I don't want my company to be like that?
We being around for 7 or 8 years, you go through different teammates and stuff. And we had some teammates at the time that if they were having a bad day, they definitely let everybody know it, which is fine. But like, you can still be polite.
Yeah.
I can tell you, yo, like Jacob, like I'm having a bad day, but they would walk in and you'd have to pass like 3 offices, like walk in, walk out, not say a thing, and be like, hey, what was up? And like the response would be like, I'll speak when I'm spoken to. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. So that wasn't like, why I think ultimately like we departed, but those are things where it's just like, that's not what I'm here to do. Like I didn't start my own business to like stress out like, or feel uncomfortable. That's silly.
Damn. Yeah. Wow. Did you ever envision yourself becoming a leader of this capacity and having a team like that and being responsible for all those people? Or would you say that building Blue Light Media and yourself as a person was just a very organic thing that happened?
That's a really good question. I used to think that I was going to be like a really good Scottie Pippen. And it wasn't until like I got put against like the wall basically that I realized that in this organization, I was actually Jordan. You know what I'm saying? So, and then now as I grow, like, and that was one part. And now as I grow, it's like, well, maybe I'm Phil. You know what I mean? Like, because now I want to get into a place where I can coach the next person, right? To do that. So, yeah, I didn't think I would be at the forefront for sure. What I did know is at a very young age, I knew I wanted to be a teacher when I grew up. Yeah. When I like, am I grown up yet? I wanted to be a teacher when I was a kid, and now it's wild that I get to do that if you think about it, because it's whether it be the content that I put out or just the people within my organization, right? So yeah, it's been wild.
Wow. That's epic. Yeah, we were talking to our good friend Josh Kim, who runs a video production company. You guys would love each other. You guys are pretty similar people. And he said that same thing. He was like, yeah, because he went to Cal State Fullerton when I did too. And he was like, dude, I was studying to be like an elementary school teacher or something like that. And then this opportunity just like fell in his lap, snowballed, and here we are. Yeah. It's pretty crazy. One thing, you've done a lot of episodes on different podcasts, and I'd also like to mention that Mikhail has his own podcast called Oversharing, and it's really good. It's really, really good.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, it's up to par with this one, you know?
Dude, you kill it, to be honest with you. 55 episodes, the production is wild. I haven't been able to, I haven't, set aside the time to like figure out the video thing. So I love what you guys are doing. And I'm so proud of it too, because we met at your entrepreneurship class, I think. Yeah. I don't think you had the podcast yet.
I don't think so.
Yeah. And also that was 2, maybe 3 years ago, because it was pre-COVID stuff, right? So honestly, I'm proud of seeing like what you're doing, and the fact, like, just finding out that you have this RV business, that you guys are still working together, because he was talking about you back then as well too, and managing you and stuff like that. So that perseverance and that being steadfast is going to take you a long way. So I'm really excited to see it. Yeah,
I appreciate that, bro. Thank you, Mikhail. Yeah. So with what I was saying earlier is you've shared this a lot, so I you don't have to give a ton of info, but you did have some maybe like financial trouble that happened, and some things that you were playing poker, right, for a living. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that? Yeah.
So my identity was stolen by my dad, and when I was a kid, and it prevented me from getting a proper job. So I did have to play poker for a living for a little bit, because this was. The timelines are fuzzy because it's been like so long, but what was I going to say? This was like right in the financial crash. I want to say it was like 2010, 2011 and stuff like that. And I couldn't even get a job at Burger King, bro. It was wild. So I ended up like cleaning carpets and, knocking on doors, like in the neighborhood that I grew up in. My mom and I were on food stamps, like all this stuff. And I knew how to play poker a little bit. I just didn't know how to play it well. And a coach, he offered to coach me to play poker. And I started played poker for like, I want to say it was like 2.5 years full time. And it wasn't glamorous or anything like that. Same thing as like, it was just enough to get by. Yeah. And I'm like surprised I got by. Like, I don't know, man. It was crazy. It was a wild time in my life, but it wasn't even in Vegas. right? It was like it was these home games that are around here. I helped organize like, you know, like getting players to come to these home games and whatever else it was. And then you know, there's Commerce Casino in LA. There's Oceanside Casino. So it wasn't even like in Vegas and fun. And every time I went to Vegas, it was like boring. It was like, like honestly, it just was like, I say professional poker player, but same thing. It's like saying CEO. It's like, what does that mean? I make sure that there's enough snacks for my team.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. So it was a wild time, and that carried on for a while. You know, I ended up having to, you know, my coach didn't want me playing poker for very long, and because of just like how I was living my life, like partying too much, not being responsible, just being a complete like, basically. So I ended up getting a job as a telemarketer, and because that's a step up. Actually, it's such a grind, and to anybody that is like selling over the phone, like you need those skills, I think, to do, like, that's what got me my chops to like do business development and sell. But you know, that wasn't much better, but it was because of working at that telemarketing firm that I started my business. So like all of these things like play a big part, you know, like whatever, even my dad stealing my identity, even my, you know, playing poker, being on food stamps, like all that stuff, it teaches you, like, I'm happy I had to eat dirt for a long time, dude. Like I was a spoiled OC brat for a really long time. And I'm just glad I didn't like turn out that way, and I know what it's like, and I know what it's like to like have nothing, and so when I have something, it feels great. You know what I mean? I also know not to detach myself from, or to attach myself to those things, because it's just stuff, dude. You don't take that stuff up. You know what I'm saying?
That's crazy. Yeah, no, you're right, man. I feel like you gotta feel the lows to really appreciate the highs. And I feel like a lot of people who just kind of get handed things growing up and stuff like that, they have a different perspective on the grind. And I'm sure their discipline isn't really as sharp as someone who they had to eat shit for a long time. Yeah. And so I want to talk about that too. Like as from what he always says, like, you're a very disciplined dude. Get up early. Like, what are like some tips on some people who, let's say, you know, because I feel like a lot of, you know, people, they'll go on YouTube where they'll ask for advice, like, yo, like, how do I stay motivated? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not motivated. Like, how do I do it? Like, what do you have that I don't? Like, so what's your advice to that kid?
I have discipline that person doesn't. I can't tell you, like, I'm so pumped to get out of bed at 4:45 in the morning when it's like cozy. I'm next to my wife and like it's still dark outside. No, dude. And like half the time I'm like really into boxing the last couple of years. It's like I'm going to go spar. Like most people are like beating my face in. Like I check myself every morning. I'm like, this is what I'm getting up for. But but honestly, like, you know, discipline takes place of motivation when motivation disappears, right? There's so many people that say that. So like you should have an end goal, but what you should have like a vision or a destination of where you want to go to. But the habits that you put in place, that should be the goal to establish. So for me, going to bed at like 9 p.m. or, you know, between 9 and 10, that's a habit for me. And so then I get my 7 hours. For me, it's like 7 hours of sleep, and I get up early and I go to the gym. And I do that because, yeah, that sucks. Like nobody really wants to do that, but I know because I've done it enough. Like I'm gonna feel better. I'm gonna perform better. If I go to bed early, I'm gonna perform better. I don't drink as like, especially like if I'm gonna go have a hard training day. I don't drink because I recently realized that like alcohol is actually giving me like really gnarly feelings of anxiety. So I don't drink that much because I want to feel better. I'm attaching myself. You know, people lose motivation because they're like, oh, I want a rollie. Oh, I want a 6-pack. Oh, I like that. So like that stuff goes away. Yeah. But it's so much easier to be motivated when you focus on like how you feel and what your mental state is. Like, I want to feel good. Yeah. You know, so that's what keeps me motivated, I think, is doing that. And honestly, like accountability is a big one when you're getting started. Yeah. So like the whole, you know, I use this hashtag called like Earn Your Sunrise. You rock this stuff, so thank you so much. But it's like that just started as a thing, and it's like as people started doing it, I was like, oh, like that's a way for me to kind of stay accountable to that, because now people expect that of me. And not saying that you got to do it to that, but like finding somebody that'll keep you accountable, for one. For two, finding something that you like doing. Because if you ask me to get up and like lift, nope. You ask me to get up and like run? Yep. Like that's me.
Yeah.
And it all started with boxing. Like I love getting up to box, but like I don't like lifting. I don't, so find something that you enjoy doing to accomplish those goals and obtain those feelings. Because if you're just listening to some like Joe Schmo that tells you that you have to do X, Y, Z to achieve this, that worked for them. That might not work for you. You know what I mean? So like, I don't know. I hope that answered your questions.
So I also feel like, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like a key thing too is even though you're doing something you love, you're not always going to love it. And so I think that's where people get tripped up because, they'll love it for a week of doing something like waking up at a certain time to run or whatever, and that's their thing. But then a month goes by and it's like, I don't think I love it anymore. It's like you do, but it's just going to take work. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to, I think people get tripped up on that. Like they think like, oh, I don't love it anymore. And then they change something and then they keep changing different routines and then they never really stick to one thing. But I personally think that motivation comes after discipline. Like I think if you discipline yourself consistently, then it's like a snowball effect because you become addicted to the feeling of feeling good. Yeah. And that motivates you, like what you said, that feeling, that mental state. But I think, people, they think it's backwards. It's like, why am I not just like naturally motivated? I think that guy's naturally has this fire that I don't have, but it's like, nah, it's just, you got to find your thing, force yourself to do it at certain times and you'll feel great. And then your motivation will spike from that. So that's kind of my opinion.
100%. And it's exactly what you said. It's like, you got to find that thing that you like to do. Not every, dude, like I barely wanted to go spar this morning. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so, I think most of the time, maybe barely I want to. I don't know. But anyways, it's like, it's hard to go up and do those things. But the reason you feel motivated is because like I told myself yesterday that I did this. I told myself that I'm this person that does this. And because I showed up, and even if I gave 50% effort, I showed up, I did the thing, check off the box. I kept a promise to myself.
Yeah.
And because I promised myself that, like I feel good. Now I'm motivated because it's like, that feels good to keep a promise to yourself. You know what I mean? So as you said, the more often you do that, then it just becomes second nature. Yeah. You just got to get over that hump. And I think that, people focus too much on the pain that's associated with doing something like getting up at 4:30 in the morning. And by the way, you don't have to do that, but it's like people don't want to get up at 4:30 in the morning because they associate that with like discomfort, but like, but they don't focus on how good is it going to feel when you have an hour to yourself to like read the news, go to the bathroom, drink your coffee, then another hour to go to the gym when nobody else is there, vibe to your favorite music or listen to your favorite podcast called Inside the RV, and then get to work when you've accomplished all that. Bro, they focus on the smallest piece of like pain point as opposed to like all the good feelings that they're going to have. So I don't know. You got to shift your perspective.
Yeah. I heard this quote once too, was like, there's two types of pain, either the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. So like choose which one you want to go through, you know?
I like that.
Yeah. And it's crazy too how you said the promise thing, because one of our favorite guys we listened to is Ed Milet. I don't know if you listen to him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He
recently, actually.
Yeah, he said in a podcast one time, he's like, I believe confidence becomes from keeping the promises you make to yourself. So if you over time keep slipping up on the promises, like I'm going to go to the gym, but you went a whole week and didn't go, your confidence kind of suffers from that. Otherwise, but if you're on top of your thing, your confidence subconsciously goes up because you trust yourself. Yeah, because you know you're going to make the right calls and fulfill your promises. So that's
100%. 100%. My homegirl, Lauren Nicole Johnson, says something similar about the promises too, and I think that's such a powerful way to put that, dude. So
yeah. We kind of a theme that is kind of constant throughout this podcast is that this is an individual battle. This is an individual struggle with yourself. And when you can overcome that battle and win that battle with yourself, you look at other hardships that others can bring to you or others can place upon you, and it looks doable, because, an example is like, and this may sound like so stupid, but like I went on a hike like 2 or 3 weeks ago in the snow, and my friend and I, we've done it a bunch of times before. And I was like, I probably don't need this gear or whatever. It's not super snowy, whatever. Next thing I know, dude, I'm like, I think I'm having a Man vs. Wild like freaking episode right here. Like, I thought I was going to die, whatever. But anywho, I pushed myself and I was like, I am in a battle with my mind and myself, and I have to get to the top of this hill and then back down, then to the car and do all this stuff. And after that, like I felt like I could take on the world, and that's kind of just like story to get people's attention and whatnot, but you can equate that to something like you said, as simple as like, well, you want to get up in the morning. You know, everyone's focusing on this small pain point, but not like the positive outcome that's going to come from that. And I'm reiterating that because I do that myself.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing that I've always struggled with is like waking up in the morning. That's a huge thing for me. But recently now, I'll get up at like even 7 or 8 for me is like crazy. You know, I'm like, oh my God, I'm up at 7:30. Oh shit. Okay. But now I'll make myself get up because I know I say, well, wait a minute. Just like Mikhail said, I can have that alone time to myself, have my coffee, actually take my time working out, and then I lay my head down on the pillow at 9 and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in like a cycle now. And it feels so good.
And I think everyone has their own, you know, scheduling that they like to stick to. You know what I'm saying? And you know, the 4:30, like how you said, like not everyone has to do that. But it's just at the end of the day, it comes down to looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, am I giving my day my all?
Right.
You know, like if you're being completely honest with yourself, that's really the part that matters. 100%. You know, it's not the 3 a.m. go to the gym like Kobe did, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. But whatever works for you.
100%. And I just want to get it out there. Like, earn your sunrise does not mean you have to be up at 4:30 in the morning or 4:48 as the tag will be the thing. Like, you just don't have to do that, dude. Everybody gets it on their own. Like there's people that are getting after it, earning their sunrise at midnight or at 2 o'clock in the morning. Every nurse that works the ER, like all that stuff, you know what I mean? Or the parent that's like, they got to get up a couple times with their kid. Like that all means that. And as you said, as long as you're giving your best so that you can be happy by your standards, not anybody else's, that's it. Simplify. People overcomplicate things. It's not that bad.
But I think I think that's the hardest part though too, is like, you know, I think a lot of people have a really tough time being honest with themselves and being self-aware. Some people don't even know, like, you know what I'm saying, like that they're kind of, well, they do, but subconsciously, like they're so used to like overlooking it that they're not really locked in on like being honest with themselves. And I think that's a skill, you know, to build. And I'm still building it. We're all still building it every day.
Yeah.
You know, so that's another component to it as well.
Yeah, it takes time to figure that stuff out, especially when it comes to happiness and whatever. I mean, we're force-fed. It's kind of weird because I own an ad agency, but it's like we're force-fed this idea that we have to live a certain type of lifestyle and have certain things to like achieve some sort of happiness or success. And it's all BS. That's not how it should be, in my opinion anyways. And to anybody that finds satisfaction in that stuff, great. What has worked for me personally has nothing to do with that. I don't feel any better. Like, my wife's not going to want to like hook up harder because I drive a BMW. Like, you know what I mean? That's a really vulgar way of saying that. I'm sorry, God. But like, but honestly, it's just, that's not it for me. Right. So ask yourself, why are you chasing after this? Is it because it's truly going to make you happy? Or is it because you want other people to think that you're happy or think that you're successful? Because for me, a BMW does nothing. For the car enthusiast that grew up with it and his granddad used to be a race car driver and it has that nostalgia, it does something for them. So my life is different from that person's life. But dude, like so much, even down to like what you're posting on social media and the life that you're trying to like portray. I like, sometimes I'll just turn comments off for a while because then I realize like, oh, I'm posting this for me, not because I need to get like a fire emoji back. You know what I mean? So there's just little things. You got to check yourself often because you get caught up in external validations instead of just being right with yourself, you know? So
I think it does get tricky though, on social media, because social media is a very fine line with a lot of things, because if you're a personal brand, then, you know, we used to always talk about this too, is like, you know, people are going to like certain things you do. We need more engagement. You know what I'm saying? That whole thing, like, you're the brand, you're the picture.
Sure.
So how do we craft that in a way, but balancing it with what do I like and what I want to do with my own peace of mind. So that's always like social media is a very tricky thing in my opinion. Yeah. But you can go.
It depends on what your goals are. Like, mine are very different, you know, than what yours are. Like, if you're an R&B artist, for example, like, you know, obviously put out your music.
Yeah.
I would venture to say that you have to be marketable to a certain extent. Yeah. But, you know, I just saw these like Jungle Boys. What is it?
Island Boys?
Island Boys.
Yeah.
Yo. What? Am I getting old? Like, is that weird? I don't want to judge them, but it's crazy.
Nowadays, it's not uncommon. You know, there's a lot of weird things like that.
Yeah. So, like, if they can do it, so can you. Yeah. Doing whatever. Don't recommend face tattoos personally. Yeah. Whatever you want to do. Anyways, but you know, my goal in like my I guess you could say my personal brand is to empower other people. So does empowering other people, does that require me to like take a photo to pretend like I'm working? Not really. Do you know what I mean? If your goal is to be an R&B singer, does it help to like have you in the studio singing? And it's a photo or photo video of you. Yeah, it does. So like, you know, just again, ask yourself, why are you creating this content? Is it actually because you want, is it because you want, you know, somebody to tell you that you're hot or you're trying to pick up chicks or whatever? Perfectly fine if you are. But is it because you're actually trying to accomplish that goal? Then okay. You know what I mean? And for me too, it's like, I don't like being on, believe it or not, I don't like being on camera or having my photo taken. So I just did, again, it was something that I knew that I could be consistent with. I like talking, I like writing. So that's why it's like quote cards and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that answered your question.
Yeah, like just knowing the intention basically is what you're saying.
Yeah,
That's
100.
cool.
Yeah. How often do you feel like quitting?
Quitting what?
Maybe moving forward from all of the things that you have on your plate, like running an entire team, having these very like pretty good goals and aspirations in front of you to stay fit, stay committed to what you're doing. Do you ever feel any sort of feeling to quit or move forward?
I did a couple months ago, to be honest. Like I was rethinking my entire business, and I realized it was just because of, I want to say this gracefully, we didn't have the right team in place at the time. And so, you know, and you go through iterations and you learn. And plus, like working with remote people was hard. Like the model was different. Like, you know, having to manage remote, I don't really like it. So yeah, I did. It was really challenging. I was like, why am I even doing this? And as I said, like, cool, we make $1 million. We do $1 million in revenue, you know, top line again. But, you know, I'm not taking that home. Like, you know what I mean? Like why, like people aren't like being self-sustaining. I'm doing other people's jobs. So like that was the first time I felt like F this in a really long time. Outside of that, I never feel like quitting ever because I'm chasing after what makes me feel good, not a thing. And like seeing my team and like coaching them, motivating them, seeing them grow, that fires me up, dude. Like feeling good, knowing that like this morning I'm 35 years old, I sparred and did pretty damn good against like a 26-year-old, that makes me feel pretty good. I like not like forever quitting. Definitely not. Dang, no, I don't ever feel like quitting. I feel like quitting like salads. Like, you're wearing In-N-Out. I'm like, I prefer that every night. But like, you know, but again, it goes back to like how I feel, right? So that I'm focused again. And this is so silly, but it's like, I'm like, okay, I feel that, but I know if I eat that one night, cool. 2 nights, meh. 3 nights, I'm going to feel like crap.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to do like, that's not what I want to feel like. So it's like, all right, I'm going to eat lighter, eat cleaner, whatever it is. Right. So again, attaching these things that like you can't buy, you know, you can't buy like feelings, and you can't buy like like physical well-being type of thing. So
how about like when you first started the business, like do you think you had more of that in the beginning before you had like a team? Because I feel like what you're saying, like, you know, when you have a team full of people, that kind of energizes you in a way too. But when it was more so just you in the beginning, you feel like you felt that more?
I want to be really honest with you when I say that. Like, I'm just not a quitter, dude.
Okay.
Like, I maybe pivot, you know what I mean? Like, I maybe pivot and, you know, I had a business partner when I first started that I had to separate from, you know, and that was painful, but I didn't want to quit. I just didn't want to work with him. You know what I mean? Or I did want to work with him. We just couldn't work together type of thing. Dude, I'm just not a quitter. If it's something I don't like, because I only do things that I really like to do. So I guess that's why it is. At the time, I really, and still today, like I really liked like, you know, helping the small bit or, you know, creating content and things like that. My skill set has changed. My goals have changed. So like now I don't really care as much about like Instagram growth. Like for small businesses, I care about like more campaign development type of thing. So it's always pivoting, but like I'm never doing, for the most part, I don't really do things that I don't like to do. The only time I ever really feel like quitting is if it doesn't make me feel good, but I'm pretty intentional about surrounding myself with people and doing things that make me feel good, like on a real level, not like drinking, like, but like on a, you know, just on a real level. So honestly, like, I'm just not a quitter. And that's why I was able to build what I built.
That's awesome.
I love that answer because
Yeah.
I think that Ryan and I are very similar too. I mean, we've had pivots individually, like in things that we're doing. And then when I was his manager, we recently in December separated in the music industry, so I'm not managing him anymore. But so, you know, but we both had to make that pivot. But I can relate. I've just never felt a desire to start something and be so fired up and passionate about it and like just quit. You know, like I've stayed in music all these years and I'm continuing to do that. And I'm not sure why I feel that way. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that we can get into, but what do you have to say for the person who really just feels like they want to quit? Do you think that they're just in the wrong, you know, niche? Do you think that, yeah?
Yeah. I think that if you feel like quitting, it's because whatever you're doing does not align with your actual values. And I don't know, even if I had to quit, like I don't see quitting like Blue Light anytime soon, or anything else I'm doing. But like if I did, like I don't care because my identity is not wrapped up in that, you know?
So what are your thoughts on, because I feel like, you know, a lot of people who are trying to be entrepreneurs and stuff, they move around a lot. Like, you know, they'll have that feeling of like, I don't feel like this aligns with me. Move on to the next business, then move on to the next business. But I think, you know, at the end of the day, to really build like a business to be successful, you have to focus on one. So what's your advice to like those kind of people who jump around and they can't find that thing, they can't pick one, you know what I mean?
I guess the first question to ask yourself is, why do you keep jumping around? Like, have you not really discovered what that is? So that's the first thing. It's like, why are you jumping around? Are you again, check yourself. Do you try to start a new business and a new venture because you want to call yourself an entrepreneur, or because you're actually an entrepreneur, and you just haven't found that niche yet? Because I know plenty of people that have maybe started, let's say, a chocolate bar, and the chocolate bar didn't work out. So now I'm going to start an underwear company. Okay, that didn't work out. And that's different. Like, you know what I mean? And like for my business, like it's all dependent on how much I want to go out and get business. It's really dependent on me because we're service-based, right?
Gotcha.
So, but to the person that's like jumping around, it's like, take a step back and like, for one, if you're happy jumping around and you're like making ends meet and you're not hurting feelings or burning other people's money, that's fine. Like whatever, because sometimes it takes a while for you to find what you're really good at. I mean, for me, for example, it's like I was a nurse. I thought I was going to be a flight nurse. That didn't work out. I was a professional poker player, a full-time poker player. I thought I was going to be on like win the World Series of Poker. Nope. Like, and then, you know, I used to imagine myself on like Poker After Dark. And then after that, I worked at that telemarketing company, and I thought I was going to be this sales director of that. And that was what I was going to do. And that was the goal. And then I started this business, and then I thought I was going to, you know, build this like 100-person agency, or 40-person, I think was the number. And now I'm like, no, definitely don't want to do that. So things change, you know what I mean? So and you pivot. Again, it comes down to like, if you're happy jumping around and you're not hurting anybody, you know, you're doing the right thing, then that's okay.
Got you.
Yeah. Sorry, that's kind of washed. It's just, it's so hard. It's like, there's no right answer to happiness, I don't think.
It's like, what do you want personally type thing.
Yeah, what do you want personally? So I have a lot of empathy that people have different goals, dude. So
that's cool.
One thing I want to touch on that you mentioned earlier is something that, you know, I personally can kind of relate with, is that I think you mentioned that you maybe fell into like the party scene when you were playing poker. And at least among all the other young men that I talk to, I think that maybe we as men can do that because, you know, you get that quick rush from getting drunk or getting high or part. You feel like the man. Oh my God, I'm talking to some girls, or I'm winning that poker game or whatever it is. And that can be very hard to come out of. Yeah. You know, and like I personally have struggled with that and been in that and partied and stuff. And I've, you know, grown a lot since then, which I'm very glad to say. But what's your advice to the kid who can't stop getting high, can't stop partying and drinking, and maybe they have goals and they just don't know what to do? Maybe they have an addiction or something that might be a little out of our, you know.
Yeah, man, that's tough. Like, I have a pretty addictive personality. I've just been able to like channel it in positive ways. So to the like, and I don't know what everybody's struggle is, dude. Like I've never like done heroin. I've never done, you know, anything crazy like that. I've done a lot of other stuff, but like, you know, the one thing I got really addicted to was like cigarettes and nicotine, and finally kicked that stuff, which was rad. Honestly, the biggest thing is like, if you gotta ask yourself, and this is like super heavy, but like, why are you doing that? What are you avoiding? You know what I mean? Like, why do you have to like get hammered to have fun? Why do you have to get hammered to talk to somebody? Why do you have to get high? Why? And like, you know, I like having a beer. I don't smoke weed. It's not my thing. But like, I like having a beer and stuff like that. And like, you've been to 2 of my parties at this point. Obviously, I like to party. But, you know, the older I get, I realized that what I thought that being able to party every night, doing drugs, hooking up with girls, like whatever it was, I thought that was freedom. But I was like imprisoned by that stuff. You know what I mean? And I recently, not recently, I've always been a believer, you know, in God and Jesus and stuff. But I started discipleship like 2.5 years ago to really dig into this a little bit further and learn more about that. And then, you know, I was always like, I was younger, and this is a very practical thing, and I'm sorry if this is going deeper than what you wanted.
No, we want this.
When I was younger, I was like, oh, like I'm really in love with this girl and I can see myself marrying her. So what's the difference? So like if we hook up, then it's not a sin because like whatever. I would, even though I kind of knew it was, but I didn't. And so I didn't see what was bad with that. And then, you know, the Bible says whatever it says about premarital sex and all that stuff. Now, taking that out of all of it, okay, look at it from a discipline standpoint. I don't know where you guys are with that, and you don't have to share about that. But at one point, to anybody that's like hooked up with multiple people before, not judging, by the way, I just want you to know I'm not judging. But how many times have you thought about an ex-girlfriend because you hooked up with them? Oh, like, I don't know, like I used to date girls that were like, oh, was she better than me? Who is your best? Like all that stuff. Then you're talking about like, oh, what's your body count? Like all that stuff. And like that feeling of insecurity for that person or for you, or feeling dirty. And even if as a guy, you're comparing yourself to the ex-boyfriend you find out is an NFL player and I'm like 5'6" and like maybe 170, like that sucks. Those are feelings of imprisonment. But if you were able to keep yourself from that stuff, like you never have to deal with that. And when you finally like, that's freedom to me. It's not being oppressed by jealousy and insecurity, right? When it comes to alcohol, like freedom isn't like getting hammered whenever I want or getting high when I want. Freedom is like not being oppressed by the feeling of a hangover, of addiction, of all these things. You know what I mean? And I think Jocko Willink says it best: discipline equals freedom. Because I don't partake in things that are disruptive to how I feel or how I live, it provides more freedom and clarity in other ways. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that you have to go through discipleship to figure that out. Like it would be rad if somebody did, but think about that for a second. You know what I mean? Like, are you free or are you hiding yourself from something? Are you avoiding something, dude? And like, that was a hard realization for me.
Man, I think, sorry not to cut you off.
Yeah.
Keep going.
No, it's fine. I don't think I had anything else to add there.
Okay, I was going to add to it, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like another component on top of that is who you're surrounding yourself with. And I think that's a very powerful thing, you know, and sometimes I think a lot of people, you know, they come out of high school with a certain group, a certain crowd that they really, you know, became attached to. And it's hard to really separate that, you know, separate from those people without that guilt or that peer pressure or whatever. And I think a lot of people go through that as well. And so, you know, they go into college with the whole partying thing. And even after college, they're still sit with those same groups. And so it's hard to detach from that once you put like this attachment into those people. You know what I mean? And if you're not the only one of the group not going to the parties, it's like you're kind of the odd one out. It's a weird feeling.
Yeah. And
I think it's a whole nother thing on top of the imprisonment. So you're kind of not really enjoying it the whole time, but you love these people.
Yeah.
And they do it. So you like, cause what's that quote? You're the sum of the 5 people you hang around, you know, and that's super true. And I think, a lot of times, you know, it could be tough to create new friend groups or like, you know, get away from like your main group. And like for me personally, I had to get alone first. Like I had to isolate from certain groups and then find new groups like after that. Because my mindset wasn't gonna attract these types of friends that I wanted yet. I had to work on it and build myself first, and then I become more like these people and go to that was me personally, but
Yeah.
I feel like that's another component right there too.
100%, dude. And like, you figured it out at a young age. Like, the best friendships aren't like based on time or history. They're based on common values. You know what I'm saying? So it sounds like you needed to find, and you did potentially find other people that had common values. Work ethic is a big one. You know, how you spend your time off. Like, you know, are you talking about the same thing? There's nothing. And by the way, like, to a certain extent, I don't think that there's anything wrong with doing parties or doing parties, like going to partying and like doing, like, even drugs to a certain extent. You know what I mean? Does that consume you? Are you a slave to it? You know what I mean? That's different.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's it. You know, like, that's it. You know, so yeah, and you got to find people that are on that same vibe, because the fact of the matter is, it's like, okay, cool, like, I don't want to party and stay out late. I really wish I was getting to the gym in the morning. But if all your homies are like trying to get bottle service every night, what are you gonna do? Because nobody wants to be alone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's why there's Bumble for Friends.
Yeah, not for real.
This episode is sponsored by Bumble for
right.
Friends. Yeah, I think part of that too is that people are looking for identity, and in groups it's very easy to find identity, because you have 10 people in a group. You say, okay, there's 10 traits about person number 1. I like one of them. I like number 6 about this person, number 4, and then you can act like all of those 10 traits that you've been searching for are present in the group.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And so, you know, sorry, were you about to say something?
go ahead.
So this kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier too, is that individualism and that isolation. You really do have to go on a journey with yourself. And I, you know, and you always ask this on your podcast too, what were you like in high school? So I'll touch on that a little bit. But in high school, I was a very like extroverted and outwardly confident person, but inside, I don't think I was very confident at all. Was very, very self-conscious, and I was searching for identity. And so exactly what we were just talking about, I became attached to groups and was always trying to get a thumbs up from everybody and stuff like that. And it was very, very hard for me to detach from that. And I felt like when I was hitting the gym by myself and working on myself and going through all of that and like starting, you know, my artist management agency a couple years ago and all that, it just felt weird. I was like, whose approval am I looking for? Who can I get a thumbs up from? You know, and then I had to develop through that and go through some pretty tough stuff, which I'm sure we've all gone through, you know, and I finally got to the point where I was okay with myself. And now drugs and alcohol and trying to conform to the group and get the thumbs up from everybody just doesn't really mean as much to me.
Yeah.
Look, and let's be honest too. Another thing too is, you know, growing up, we always hear from the majority of adults who say, enjoy your 20s. Like, you're only going to get your 20s. It should be your best years of your life. You should. And then people correlate that with partying and like adventures and not building yourself as like a, you know what I'm saying? As like someone who's going to set themselves up. So it's that quote right there too that really, in my opinion, messes a lot of people up, because like, enjoy your 20s. You should be living it up. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you what, I'm crushing 35. Like, I'm in the best.
Hell yeah.
Like,
Let's go.
I'm in the best shape of my life. Like,
You're in your prime.
Dude. I feel like I'm in my prime, and like, you know, I enjoyed my 20s, I guess you could say. And then I look back, I'm like, did I need to do all that? I don't know.
Yeah.
But like, you know, I would say there's a meme that like reminds me of that. It's something along the lines of like, all you people out there showing like trying to show that you're living by getting drunk every night, like, don't you know you're dying? Like,
True.
It's crazy. And by the way, again, nothing like not even within the, you know, it's within the, don't be a slave to that stuff, man.
Yeah.
I used to think like a late night was cool until I found out the magic of an early morning. Like, bro, I'm telling you, there's another thing that's real tight that I saw, like it says like, debate me on this, right? Like, sunrises are trash because it's given to everybody, but earning your sunrise, like, you actually have to work for it. And I'm like, yeah, like that's how. And it was like, first of all, bro, I trademarked in your sunrise, but whatever. Yeah, but it's true, and like, feel that magic for yourself. See what it's like to like do something that's that a little bit uncomfortable, but like, man, what's everybody talking about? Like the sunrise stuff. What's everybody talking about? Like staying sober for like a month. Like, bro, I'll tell you, I did a dry-ish January. Like, I did a dry-ish January, and it's weird that we're talking about like alcohol so much, but it's such a big thing.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And because it's so easily accessed.
Yeah.
And like, I thought I was going to like cut a bunch of weight because at one point I did. And I was like, oh, like I cut like 20 pounds and I was trying to drop for boxing. I didn't drop any weight, but what I did, I think I just told you guys, I just recently realized that like even like a couple glasses of wine, the next day I get like, I can feel it like in my heart and my neck and, and I thought like I was stressed out from work or whatever it was. Like, oh, like I kind of A/B tested how I felt.
Yeah.
It's like, and now it's like, okay, so I identified that, like I feel better without it. And like I had a glass of wine last night, and I still actually felt those things this morning. I don't know if it's psychosomatic. I obviously evaluate myself often, but like, but honestly, it's just those things where it's just like, we got to figure out like, why do we do these things? And, and understanding like, look, just, I don't know, the discipline to typically like removing things from your life will give you more freedom than adding something to it. So I don't know.
I mean, to even touch on like what you were saying before about the imprisonment, right? I would even go further, and I personally, like my opinion would say, I think a lot of people who, do all that stuff, I don't know if they're actually like imprisoned as much as someone who low-key wants something different for their life. Like for me, if I did that, I would low-key have this thing of like guilt and that imprisonment because I knew I would want something different for my life and become successful in what I wanted to do, etc. But I think there's genuinely people who are like cool with just like partying, their 9 to 5.
Yeah.
That's their whole thing. So I think, I think someone like you, for example, I could tell you have this fire in you and you always have, right? And so if you you said you kind of went through that, right?
Yeah.
So do you kind of feel like when you're going through that imprisonment came from, I low-key want something different for my life. Like, that's just what I want.
100%,
okay.
dude. 100%. Like, I can't say that I was always aware of it at the time because it's like, you don't know. You don't know until like you're a little bit older, until you go through those things. And honestly, like, I didn't start feeling my hangovers until I was like 32 maybe, but it's like that type of thing. But yeah, I always knew that I wanted something greater than what I was surrounding myself with when I was in my mid-20s. I thought when I turned 30 that greater meant a milli and greater meant like, 40-person company.
Yeah.
And then today I've realized that the greatest thing I can possibly ask for is like my wife coming home every day, like healthy and smiling. That's
cool.
it, dude. I care so little about everything else. And am I doing right by God? Am I glorifying him? Because honestly, without all of this, without him in my life one way or another, it's easy to see like people are like, man, where's the blessings in my life? Look back, dude. Where was he? Where did he dig you out? Whatever anybody's beliefs are, by the way, but for me, that's the truth. And it's just like, as long as I'm doing right by God and my wife loves me, don't care about too much else. Like really don't. You know what I mean? So like, and when you can simplify your life like that, it's so much easier to be happy. You know what I mean? And so even when it comes down to boxing, even when it comes down to running or running the business, I think to myself, like I'm on my runs, I'm on like mile 3, I'm gassing and I'm like, thank you, God, for giving me these legs to run. Like I'm glorifying you by using them. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, and even like before I get into my 1,000 emails, it's just like, hey, like, and I'm not perfect, dude. Like nobody is, but for me, it's like, thank you, God, for this opportunity. Let me grace this person with this response. Again, not perfect, but that's where it is. When you can understand that, like, every day is an opportunity. Every like breath we take is an absolute blessing, regardless of what your beliefs are. Like, you didn't pay for this air right now. You got this. There's people in the world that like they can't go run outside because they're gonna get shot up or like whatever the case may be, dude. Like, dude, it's all blessing. Why not take advantage of all that stuff? And when you can simplify that and you have gratitude for it, it's so much easier to be happier.
Yeah, because I remember, Jacob told me that the last time he saw you, he tells me everything. The last time he saw you, he said something about like he felt like, yo, I'm not where I want to be yet. And then I think you said, I don't either. Like, you never do. It's just an always never ending thing. But I think that's why it's so important what you just said. Like, you got to have gratitude, like where you're at. Because you're always going to feel like you don't have something yet. But if you just hone down and say, you know what, this is part of the process. I'm grateful for where I'm at. I'm grateful for how I got here, and just keep going from there. That's like happiness right there. You know.
Do you do a gratitude practice yet?
I have your the template you sent me, right, with like 3
Sounds
things
like you're
about-
not using it.
And it's posted. It's posted. I'm totally avoiding. I'm like, I have the paper. Yeah, it's on my board in front of me, but no, I don't do it regularly.
Yeah,
Should
I think it helps me, to be honest. So that's one of the things that have helped me stay positive in those times where it's hard to be positive, because those times come, is building that habit of gratitude. And it's a habit for me. And it's just like anything else. It's like lifting weights. You got to build up that gratitude muscle. I know that sounds really cheesy, but it's true. So like when it is time to like lift the thing, like, when there's a challenge in front of you, then you've already done that instead of having to dig it out. So it really shapes your perspective. So whatever that gratitude practice is, start there, bro. I'm telling you. And then it just like I don't know, like you'll find a little bit more clarity in that, I think. And not just you, to anybody listening or you. It's like, because it takes 5 minutes every day.
Yeah.
I'm not good at the nighttime one, and I got to be better about that. But like the morning one every morning. And I'm not even writing down gratitude or for like, thank you for this roof over my head, even though it is.
Yeah.
But it'll be like tomorrow or tonight, it'll be like, hey, thank you for giving me the opportunity to like talk to you guys today. You know what I mean? And getting me here safe. And like, especially because I'm like, I shouldn't say it. I'm on my phone a lot, like when I'm in traffic.
Yeah.
Like, that sucks. Like, thank you for getting me here safe, and like all of those things, and affirmations to yourself, bro. Like telling yourself, like, dude, you're just telling me now that you own this company that like rents out RVs. Like that's so rad. Like that's rad. You're pursuing a passion of like doing music every day. You get to do what you love every day. That's rad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's like at what point, like what else do you want?
Yeah.
You're doing the thing. You know what I mean? Like this is what you're doing on a Thursday night while there's somebody flipping a burger somewhere.
Yeah, man.
Facts.
Yeah. So
That is so huge to me, because very recently, man, something that I've been huge on is being present and really just like engulfing yourself in what you're currently doing, because that's really all you have control over is what you're currently doing or thinking about. And it took me, I actually went on a trip for a project for the music business and my RV company. They kind of mesh, which is cool. And I was by myself working with this other team for 2 weeks, and I was driving too, and I had a lot of time to really think. And I was like, I'm thinking about all these things that I could be, or that could happen, or that I could make happen, or whatever. And then I thought, dude, Jacob Moore 5 years ago in college, this is what he wanted. Like literally what I'm doing right now in my life at 25 years old, 20-year-old Jacob was like, I'm going to do this once I'm out of college and have this company and that. And maybe it's not the $1 million company or anything yet, but I really had to stop and be like, dude, I'm exactly where I need to be. I just need to continue doing what I'm doing, and most importantly, feel good about what I'm doing. Yeah. Because I told you at your party, this was like, life just changes day by day, man. It's crazy, because a couple months ago at your party, I was telling you, yeah, man, I'm kind of down in the dumps. Like, I feel like I just haven't accomplished anything yet. And, and now I'm sitting here like, dude, you're doing okay, man.
Yeah.
You feel good. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
So.
What did I say to you when you said that?
You said, dude, shut the fuck up and take another shot, bro. Come on.
That does not sound like me.
I'm just playing. You said, okay, man, hey, we got to talk about that, because, you're never really going to feel like you're there. And that's kind of just what it's like being an entrepreneur, but you can be happy with where you're at. And we'll talk more about that. And then we did some knuckles. And I felt pretty good after that.
Oh, good. Well, it's the truth, because I don't know. It takes time, dude. Like, and I don't know if I could even say that I've arrived. And and again, like I humbly say this, like that I was, by the grace of God and a lot of hard work, because like faith without work is dead. Let's just, like I was able to build something kind of cool. But even then, it's like, again, dude, I'm telling you right now, I don't feel like I've arrived.
Wow.
Yeah, because I'm like, okay, because my priorities changed, dude. I had 83.5 on my vision board. $83,500 a month is what you need to do $1 million in a year. And so break it down into actionable steps. That's going to be on episode 2. But anyways, you know, I hit that and it didn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
You know, for one, like, who cares? Like, my priorities changed. But now I'm just like, bro, like, all I want is like to build a life where I get to spend more time with my wife, you know? And so now it's just like I have this other thing that I want to do, you know? And so I don't feel like I've arrived yet, you know? And it's a never ending thing. But like you said, being present, you've accomplished so much, bro. And like, I'm telling you, you even look like filled out and stuff. Like, I'm pumped.
Hey,
like when I
you,
first met you, it felt as if like you were super lost in what you were doing. And we're always going to deal with those things. Like, that's okay. Like if you don't feel like you're lost, like you're a lucky person. But I'm telling you, like, I think about it. I'm like, wow, my, you know, stepdad was 35 years old when I was 15. When my mom was 35 years old, I was 5. Yeah, because she's a little older. I was like 5 or 6 or something like that. I think that's right. I couldn't imagine having a kid. I mean, I can't imagine having a kid, but like, and I realized like people are just making things up as they go.
Yeah.
To be honest, and they just make the best decision they can based on their goals and like what they've experienced in the past. But like, life isn't about the things you accomplished. I can tell you that. I mean, cool. It's like cool to do that if that brings you happiness. I'm telling you, for me, life for me is about how I can impact other people. And that's it. And I have to stop thinking it has to be on like this crazy scale of like thousands of people on YouTube and verified account. Like, who cares? I get one person who's like, yo, I see Earn Your Sunrise every day, and like it got me out of the bed today. And I'm like, well, crap, I guess I have to keep doing this. You know, but like, that's it, dude. Like, why does it have to be like this huge grand? Some of us aren't called for that. Some of us aren't even meant for that, period. And it's hard, and like, either, you know, that's not God's calling. We don't have the talent. We don't have the work ethic. Some people don't get the opportunity, but what we can control is how we treat other people today and how hard we put that in today and what how hard we work today and our mindset toward today. And bro, if you can bring it down to like, my family's healthy, I'm healthy, I get to do the thing I love, dude, you're winning so hard.
See, and I think what people messed up on, and what I did for a long time too, is like, you know, they'll see a mid-level company or whatever, and then they'll see like this Jeff Bezos, like Amazon. They're like, well, he must be way happier. But it's like, dude, like having that much wealth and all these things, like that comes with a whole nother set of problems.
Yo, his wife just left him.
Yeah,
like,
and she took half of it. So it's like each level, or whatever you want to call it, each situation has its own set of problems. It's not like someone's feeling better than this person overall. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't know. I think that's a weird thing people don't really see. It's
interesting. And of course, maybe he values money more than anything else, and he values his business, and that's perfectly fine for him. But like the human, like any normal human really only has bandwidth for like, I don't know. I like to say like 7 things. That's for me. And you're going to have to like juggle these things. And if you pay attention to like priority number 7 for longer, priority number 1 or vice versa is going to drop. And those things shift over time. Different times in your life are going to call for different things. You asked me at the beginning of this podcast, like, what does it take to start? At one point in my life, it took 18-hour days every weekend, eating crap. Like, I know, like at the time that I was on like food stamps and building my business. I knew that a Junior Jack and 2 Jack tacos, like, were like $2.28 because that's all I could afford. You know what I mean? And it's like, and it took like a couple of years of that. It took that. And up until like maybe a couple of years ago, like 2 or 3 years ago, I was still working 12, 13-hour days. That's what it takes at a certain part in your life. Today, like I've gotten to kind of where I wanted to go there. But you know what sucked about that is I didn't get to see any of my friends. Bro, I just met my like homegirl's daughter for the first time. Her daughter's 4. Like, that kind of messed with me. Like, when I saw her, like, kind of messed me up. I was like, you've been such a good friend to me for so long, and I didn't even make time to do that. I made it wasn't I'll call it an excuse because I could have made the time, I'm sure. But I was so focused on that. So those friendships, you know, those friendships suffered. Maybe even relationships with family. But now I've gotten that figured out. Now, like, my priority is my family and my wife and my health. And so now I know that like, okay, like maybe the growth that we've had over the last 3 years, it's not going to be the same this year or next year, you know, or something to that effect. And it's like, okay, but that's fine. So those 7 things or whatever, you got to prioritize that, you know, or you got to be okay with the fact that like not everything's going to grow at the same rate.
Yeah. My a question I have too is so I think you mentioned this a little bit too earlier. When you first started your business, like, you know, when you were saying you're working 18-hour days and all that stuff, was the bulk of your income, however you were making it with that, with side jobs, whatever it was that just reinvested like into the business, or do you think that's what it took? Like a lot of it, your money, like you were still, we'll say, quote unquote, broke, whatever that means to anybody, for a while, like.
Yeah, so the first year...
That's where I'm at right now. Everything's just reinvested into like my music.
As you should.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends, you know, it depends on where you want to go with what you're doing. The first year did like 97,000, but like we were paying contractors and there was stuff we had to pay for or whatever. So like I was only paying myself, I paid myself $1,800 a month for like 3 years. And I was really blessed. I had Sarah, who's now my partner over at Blue Light. She let me live in her house for $500 a month and let me eat all her like leftovers.
Nice.
Yeah. So and sorry, that sounds kind of weird too. Like she also gave me not leftovers, but she's an angel, dude. And like if it wasn't for a lot of things, but she gave me a hand up. And, you know, she works for us full time now. I would like to say that her job is pretty cush. So it's like, that's my way of paying her back type of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, it does take that. It takes reinvesting and like just looking at the long-term goal. Like, you know, it was that. And it was like, we were just on like credit cards at the time, you know, luckily like I always made rent, but like, that's all it was. It was like paying rent and paying myself a little bit just to like do normal things. Like again, I think it was just paying rent and doing groceries, and like I went out like a little bit, you know what I mean? So
yeah. Because that's like my situation right now is like, I don't mind sharing it. Whatever. But so I do Uber. Like that's like my main source of income. But pretty much everything I make Uber wise goes right back into music and the business.
As you should.
Because I'm kind of betting on like because right now I have the luxury of being able to live at home, which I'm very blessed to say, like, wow. But I'm betting on the fact of like, once I start earning like a higher income, like off the music, then I can start, you know, saving in certain ways or whatever. But right now I feel like it takes like the bulk of my money to reinvest back into the thing. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
How are you monetizing your music right now? Or
so the main thing that thanks to this guy actually, is I use Facebook ads to funnel in people. Because right now I'm really trying to create like genuine fans. I'm not really trying to like blow up a song or whatever yet. Right now I want to build like a diehard fan base, and so I do that through funneling with marketing or Facebook ads. That's the main thing. And
are
then
you TikToking?
No.
You know you should, bro. I think you have to. For music,
we can talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah. But so that's the main thing, and then most of it goes back into like song artworks, like stuff for the music specifically.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where I'm at right now with it.
Sure. So I think that, and look, I don't know the industry like you guys do, right? But I would say that a lot of the value that you're going to provide, other than your handsome good looks, are like is going to be the actual music, right? So that's why I kind of say TikTok, and of course there are things around that.
Yeah.
And funneling people into that. I think that kind of comes down to like, where are you monetizing the business basically? And if it's off streams and you're funneling people in there and you're paying for ads, that makes sense in the long term for sure. I will say that I think that there's something to be said about putting yourself in a corner, and like, because you have the luxury of living at home and all that stuff, like however long you're Ubering or doing your side job or whatever it is, can those 4 or 5 hours be used to like continue to build your music? You said you released a song every 2 weeks.
Yes. Can
you release a song every week if you don't Uber? Can you release a song every other day if you don't Uber? Who knows? Like maybe like, because the content is your the content is really your currency and your value proposition,
Yeah.
right? Content being the music. So it's like, can that work? That's risky, right? But you have the luxury of living at home. Like, is it something that you can? Is that something that you can do? Because I'm going to go ahead and say, like, when I started my business, I had a full-time job, and I would work on it at night.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it would have ever worked if I wasn't fired from that job because I started a second business and had to make it work.
Takes time, yeah.
You know, so I don't recommend that for everybody. But I think that there is something to be said about. There's something to be said about, like, this is all that I'm doing. All of my effort is going into this, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, even now, like, yeah, that's it. So, did that answer your question?
Yeah. The main thing was like, does it make sense to reinvest the bulk of your money into your business early on?
100%. And I would say that if you can save some of that so that you can, you know, maybe just live off peanuts for a year and see, or even 6 months, like whatever, like what does it look like if you put everything into that 6 months? Every day you're pumping out a new song. Is that even, I'm sure it's possible. Somebody's doing it out there. Like, I would want to see that happen. I'd want to test that, because the problem is, it's like, unless you're, you know, there's a level of comfort that you have right now. And I truly believe that there's a level of pain that has to come if you really want the progress you're looking for.
For sure. Definitely. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Wow. Now, one last thing before we wrap this up. How good is Eggs Benedict, bro? Eggs Benedict is salmon Eggs Benedict.
I think it just depends on, like, where you're getting the Eggs Benedict from. There's some, like, there's some great ones. There are some not so good ones. What I've realized in my Eggs Benedict journeys is that, you know, looks can be deceiving. The best ones that I've had look like they're going to be trash.
Yeah.
And then some of the most bland ones that I've had, they were all like dolled up and stuff like that. So you know, it's kind of wild.
Yeah. To answer my own question, I love Eggs Benedict.
Yeah,
so good.
I have a feeling, you know, I have a Eggs Benedict page.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah, are you still like using that regularly?
Somewhat regularly. Yeah. You know, I think I have one that I have a couple that I haven't posted, but I think once every month I'm posting to it as just like as a thing. Like, it's mainly for me.
Yeah.
Like, Eggs Benedict is hard to have all the time, bro.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much, the hollandaise is so heavy, then you got the bread and like all this stuff, and it's like, I can't eat. And then it's expensive.
Yeah, for sure.
Dude, I had a $35 Eggs Benedict from Outpost Kitchen off Bristol. Was actually worth it. It got a standing applause. But that's like expensive. Or like 16, 18 bucks. After I got back from Europe, I was like, I can't be spending this much money on food, dude. This is crazy. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to get your thoughts to the audience on Eggs Benedict, because it's really good.
I love Eggs Benedict with a side of bacon.
Man, thank you so much for coming on, Mikhail.
Yeah, dude.
You are the man. We're definitely going to
me.
have to do this at some point again.
Yeah.
And are you cool with like the audience reaching out to you or following you or anything like that?
Absolutely. You can find me on basically any social platform at Mick, M-I-Q-K. The Q comes before the K. And you can also go to, I think that's basically it. You'll find everything else there.
Cool.
Yeah.
You're the man, bro. Thank
Appreciate
you.
you.
Everyone, thank you so much for listening. Inside the RV, episode 55. Peace out.